The Middle Way Nagarjuna's Mulamadhyamakarika translation and commentary by J. L. Garfield, Part 2, the text and commentary Chapter 16, Examination of Bondage. So there are no entities. But still, from a Buddhist perspective, we are bound to our conceptions of entities in essence, bound to ourselves, bound to objects, and principally, bound to cyclic existence itself. Surely, the opponent might ask, mustn't the bondage that accounts for the illusions so ruthlessly analyzed in the previous chapter be intrinsically real? If not, what is the causal basis for all of these illusions and all of this suffering? In a Buddhist framework, this bondage to cyclic existence is instantiated in endless transmigration in samsara, and freedom from bondage would be liberation from cyclic existence into nirvana. We will postpone a discussion of the precise nature of that liberation and of nirvana until we reach the chapters where that topic is discussed, namely, 22 and 25. Nagarjuna begins with an examination of transmigration and the entity that transmigrates.
1. If compounded phenomena transmigrate, they do not transmigrate as permanent. If they are impermanent, they do not transmigrate. The same approach applies to sentient beings. Nagarjuna sets up a by now familiar destructive dilemma: either compounded phenomena of which sentient beings, the beings who are bound, are instances, are permanent or impermanent. Let us just consider the compounded phenomena who are sentient and hence who transmigrate. If they are thought of as permanent, they cannot transmigrate because transmigration involves, by definition, change. And what is permanent, as we have seen, cannot change. But if they are impermanent, then they do not endure through time and, hence, cannot transmigrate. So no sentient being considered as an inherent entity can be conceived of as a transmigrator in cyclic existence.
2. If someone transmigrates, then if, when sought in the fivefold way in the aggregates and in the sense spheres and in the elements, he is not there, what transmigrates? Given that no inherently existent person can be found upon analysis as the bearer of the aggregates, as identical to the aggregates, as different from the aggregates, as the collection of the aggregates, or as the arrangement of the aggregates, and mutatis mutandis for other possible modes of analysis in terms of domains of knowledge or experience and in terms of basic elements, it follows that there is no inherently existent subject of transmigration. If the transmigrator cannot be identified on analysis, though, neither can the transmigration itself, it will follow that there is no inherently existent transmigration and, hence, no inherently existent bondage to cyclic existence.
3. If one transmigrates from grasping to grasping, then one would be non-existent. Neither existent nor grasping, who could this transmigrator be? Grasping here refers primarily to grasping the aggregates as oneself. Transmigration, or for that matter continuation within one life, which from the Madhyamika perspective is exactly the same kind of process, involves moving from grasping one set of phenomena as oneself to grasping another in the same way. That is one of the most fundamental delusions from a Buddhist standpoint. But grasping can also be the grasping of an object as an object, or the clinging to possessions. Life in samsara, Nagarjuna would insist, can equally well be characterized in any of these ways. But if in order to exist as an individual one would have to retain one's identity over time, since on this view it is of the very nature of cyclic existence that one constantly changes from one moment to another, then it would follow that no subject exists. But if there is no subject of grasping, there can be no grasping. So, on the supposition that to exist and to transmigrate is to exist as a continuing entity, there is no way to make sense of the phenomenal world. So an inherently existent grasper, posited in order to guarantee the reality of cyclic existence, in fact makes the reality of cyclic existence incoherent.
4. How could compounded phenomena pass into nirvana? That would not be tenable. How could a sentient being pass into nirvana? That would not be tenable. If compounded phenomena are permanent, grasping is permanent. And if grasping is permanent, samsara is permanent. And if samsara is permanent, then nirvana is impossible. But the philosopher who is positing inherently existent bondage is doing so in order to defend a Buddhist perspective on cyclic existence and nirvana. This is precisely the motivation for the reification, the worry that samsara and nirvana are, if not inherently existent, non-existent. So this conclusion is inadmissible for such an opponent.
5. All compounded phenomena are arising and ceasing things, not bound, not released. For this reason, a sentient being is not bound, not released.